thought-provoking podcast that sheds light on the challenges faced by young people living in urban areas. We highlight the resilience and creativity of young leaders who are finding innovative ways to overcome the challenges our young people are facing, inspiring listeners to take action to support them. This is A Different Cloth.
Hey everybody, welcome back to A Different Cloth podcast. Our mission here at A Different Cloth is to inspire, challenge, and equip the next generation of leaders, dreamers, and change makers, those that aim to make a difference outside of the norm. And we've had some really dope guests on this season who are actually making a real big difference in the world and society. And today is no different. And so we're really excited for this conversation. Y'all know who I got to my left, all the way from the mean streets of Brooklyn. Oh, I'm gonna change it every time. We're gonna it's Menifee one day, it's Brooklyn the next. So, but Angel Maldonado.
Yeah, I'm a private school kid. Yeah.
Wait, what? You went to private school for real?
Absolutely not.
I was like, what? I didn't know that part of your story.
No.
Man, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited for this one. We got to talk off air, offline, off mic. And I learned some valuable things, some amazing things. So
yeah. No, I'm excited. I'll tee this one up, man. I think, actually, years ago we used to hoop a little bit. And
can he
so
hoop?
he could ball. Yeah, he's a baller.
Harold can Jose hoop.
I remember who I was literally thinking about it today. Too. It's funny though. I actually met you before that.
Wait. At the Bible study.
Yeah.
Kevin's.
Yep.
I remember that too. Yeah.
My man prophesied. I'll never forget it.
Oh, shoot. I don't remember that though.
Yeah.
What did he say?
He said,
a prophet lied probably.
He said there's something about you. And he's like, you're gonna be a leader that's gonna make a lot of impact.
Oh, fire. Yeah. Oh man. Oh, that's dope.
Now you can
Oh, bro. It's about to get me emotional already. Like, that's crazy. No, man. So anyways, man, we reconnected through a mutual friend, a board member of ours, Kevin Bugingo. Shout out to you, Kevin. Thanks. And you and Kevin had been connected for a while, but what he told me was, hey, I need you to connect with Harold. They have this new business, which is a restaurant, and it's booming. Like, that's literally, he was like, yo, it is taking off. Yeah. And then when we actually got to sit down, I just remember thinking, like, this guy gets it. And then to see your growth trajectory since 2019 is unreal, literally. And so I want to welcome to the podcast Harold. Last name?
Walters.
I should have known that. Harold Walters. One of four co-owners of Shootz. Shootz, is it just Shootz?
Shootz.
Yeah, okay. One of four co-owners of Shootz. If you are anywhere in Southern California, you should look up Shootz. We had them at one of our celebrations, and that food was fire.
For free food, just say Rag sent you.
Our team was raving about that, bro. They were like, "Oh my God, this is good!" Like, so. Anyways, welcome to the podcast, brother. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
it's gonna be dope.
Yeah. So, in the world of entrepreneurship. Because you do a lot and have done a lot. Like, there's been a lot of areas or routes you've gone. I think there was like some I forgot what you call it, but like sales stuff.
I did e-commerce for a little bit.
E-commerce. Man, like, I just know there's a lot of people that are trying to figure out what's gonna land for them in life, like what's gonna stick.
Right.
How did you find something that sticks? Like, what was that journey like for you? Like,
yeah, man. So it started out, I've always I was in tech for a while. Like, I worked in the tech field.
Okay.
So I was always into something with computers whenever it was in high school from then on. And then I got into e-commerce more out of necessity. Okay. Like e-commerce and also web development. I would make money just selling websites and stuff. And so I was having I was trying to go to college, trying to do the thing. I was an 8-year community college student,
Yeah.
Probably like 2 classes away from 3 associate degrees. And so from there I was like, I was trying to figure out how I could make money doing that. Like, I'm going to build a career. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to become a computer programmer or something like that. And then we got pregnant with my first daughter. So me and my wife this is in 2016. We're like, we're about to have this baby. And I was like, this school thing ain't gonna work. Like, I need to make money faster. I got to figure this out, you know? And so, got out of that, jumped into e-commerce and had a lot of success with that. But I didn't really necessarily feel that like tied to what I was doing. Like, I didn't really see the impact of it.
Can I interrupt? Like, can you not to get in your business, but to get in your business, can you define success in the e-commerce world?
Yeah.
Because it could be relative to people, like on a good month or whatever, or however you measured it.
Oh yeah.
What was a number? What was a thing? Like what would success look like in that world for you?
Yeah. So we were doing about, in the first 2 months, we were doing about 30 grand a month.
Oh.
Yeah, 40 grand a month.
Yeah, that's a good month.
Yeah, and I stayed with it. We did 40 grand. Made 40 grand the next month after that. We started hitting some road bumps a little bit.
Sure.
But we kept going. And then about a year and a half later, I stayed in the business, but we kind of shifted and pivoted, and we had even more success.
Okay.
And at that point, we were doing about 130 grand a month. And we were selling, we were doing basically like subscription type of business, right?
Okay.
You know, memberships,
Yeah.
which is pretty big now.
And you still, at some level, felt disconnected from it, right? So tell about the disconnection portion.
Yeah, I just felt like I didn't really see what the long-term vision of it was. And I wasn't a real huge fan of how the industry moved, in a sense. I go to events and like conferences and things like that. You know, I'm sure you've been to like events like that, right?
Yeah.
And it felt like this very competitive like energy, you know, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's cool having competition, but it wasn't really collaborative of like, hey, how do I help you? How can you help me? It was more of like, nah, I don't want to tell you what I'm selling, or I don't want to. So, and I don't knock the industry. Like,
I hear you.
You know, I mess with people that are in it still. But at the same time, I took on this investment to get into the restaurant industry, which was a Shootz. So, you know, 3 of my childhood friends, hey, we want to start a restaurant. And so initially my idea wasn't really, hey, I'm going to jump into this thing and do it wholeheartedly because I had a business.
Yeah.
But after being in it for a little bit, I started to really like have a love for the business. I get around people, and it was that collaborative environment, you know? So that's what really made me stick with it, like seeing the energy of the business, feeling the energy of it.
Okay. Collaboration over competition is, you know, we just live in a world where I feel like everybody's in competition with something or somebody, right? How do you embrace the collaboration mindset? Because I think it is a mindset. And to your point, when you see competition in a setting, if you really are about collaboration, that's going to turn you off to that setting. And it's not even just in business, bro. It's in ministry too. Like I cannot tell you how many times I've been in a ministry context, and you know, you're there just to like, man, be there and like just to be a part of whatever it is. And then people like feel like almost threatened by you, or like they like,
I don't feel good, man. You doing
not
this to
you,
me.
brother, but I'm just saying, like somebody this close to you feel like, oh, we're in competition with each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that's never the case. Like we could all win here. Like there really can be collaboration. How did you get into the collaboration over competition? Also, because you play ball and stuff, so I imagine there's probably some level of competitive nature in you.
Yeah.
Right? Like I know I'm guilty of like leaning more into competition sometimes than collaboration. So
Right.
How'd you adopt that mindset?
Well, I don't think there's an issue with competition.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's important to have it because it also shows you where you can grow, you know? So it's good to see like, oh, they're killing it.
Yeah.
We're here. But I think the problem is that like we look at it like it's a zero-sum game or something where it's like, oh, if you're winning, then I can't win.
Yeah.
So I think I don't really know how I got into it. It was just a lot of learning. Well, I guess I did. I read a lot of books, about like, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read Secret to the Millionaire Mind, like all these different, like these books that talk about wealth. And it talks about how, you know, you got to have an abundance mindset. Like there's enough to go around for everybody. Yeah. And so having that mindset going into things, I'm not looking at it like, oh, if you win, I can't win. I'm looking at it like we could all win together if we work together, you know?
Yeah. What's one book that just rocked you that like kind of was like, oh, there's that?
I say Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Like that was the easiest book for me to read.
Okay.
Have you guys read that book? Yeah. So like That was
I've
the first.
Skimmed it. I haven't.
You skimmed it.
I know the concepts, and I've been around it a little bit.
Yeah.
I haven't fully dove into it.
Yeah. So that book, and it's not like I wouldn't say it's the most profound book to me.
Right.
But it was just a book where I had no problem. I think I read that thing in like a week. Like it's
fire.
probably the fastest book I ever read. But he talks about how the rich dad thinks versus how the poor dad thinks. His real dad versus the dad that he probably wish he had.
Yeah.
And I would say it just gave me a different mindset on just how I look at money, how I look at people, how I look at having a job.
Yeah.
Like, and not to say that it's wrong or anything, but it's understanding that there's certain limits that it puts on you, So
I love that. So you can jump in whenever you want, But
Yeah,
but one of the things that really changed my life was a book. And some of our guests also have been readers, and like that's been a major part of their growth and experience and how they've gone to another level. I remember a business guy gave me a book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. And I was in the hospital for a couple of days with a virus, so like I missed work. I was gonna like be short on rent, and I asked him could he help me out, right? Just like I need help. I'm like, yo, can you hook me up with something? And I will never forget. He gave me a book. It's about this thick, and he puts it on the desk, and he gives a $100 bill on top of it. He said, "Read this in a week, or don't ever ask me for anything again."
Whew.
And I read that entire book in a week, and I wasn't a reader. I hated reading at the time. But that book changed my life. So much of the principles we teach on school campuses right now come from that book. And most people don't even realize it. The E plus R equals O, that's in that book, like in real life. And so that whole thing shaped like my whole perspective on life. Like, and, but just crazy, like hearing like your story of like, man, like books change mindsets. Bro. It really does elevate your thought process and growth. And you always hear the cliche, like leaders are readers.
Yeah.
But I think we're seeing that in our interviews right now, in who we're talking to and stuff. And so,
well, it's like realizing, man, like everything manifests in your mind. So it's like you can't force things to happen in the physical. Like if it ain't happening up here, it ain't gonna happen out there.
That's good. So, I haven't been on social media, but that was crazy. When I was on social media, I got to see a little bit of your page, and you remind me of like a young Myron Golden, or like you know what I mean?
I've
like,
actually met Myron
have you
multiple times.
Have you
I've
done
had lunch with him?
Have you done okay, definitely makes sense because I'm like, oh yes, Harold and Shootz for sure, but I feel like the layers of Harold of what he wants to be, or who he wants to be, or where he's trying to go is a lot more for me, in my opinion, from what I've seen. So I guess, can you speak on like not necessarily childhood, but as a teenager? A lot of our viewers are young people. Like, did you always have that mindset of like collaboration? Did you always have the mindset of like, all right, I need to learn more. How can I gain more? How can I gain more wisdom?
Yeah.
Can you speak on that?
Yeah, I think I always wanted to learn for sure. Like, and I always wanted to, like when things were broken, I wanted to fix them somehow. Like I remember this time when I was a kid, I had this, you remember the little, like the little toy trucks that had the battery in them?
I literally just said it in the last one. You remind me, I told the gentleman before, you remind me of one of those people who take toys apart just to see how they work.
Yeah. Facts. I had one of those little like toy trucks. You had the little battery you would charge, and then and I remember just one. I was 4 years old. The thing stopped working, and I was like, and my grandmother told me it's not gonna work. Like it's done. Forget it. And like one morning, I just woke up like 6, 7 a.m. or something. Just went out there and I unscrewed the pedal and then put the gas. I was like, oh, okay, the pedal just wasn't hitting or whatever, right? And I always had moments like that. I had a computer that didn't work at home, so I tried to fix it and somehow got it to work. So I always knew that like there's something about my mind. I don't know what it is, but there's something where I just like figuring out things.
You on your Schofield.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that problem solver, man.
Yeah.
That's fire.
So yeah, I guess like to answer your question, growing up, I just always knew I wanted to learn. I wouldn't say I was that collaborative because I wasn't the most social kid, so I didn't really know how to like get along with people very well. So I was very individualist, and that's probably one of my struggles now as I'm older now, especially leading teams and whatnot, is that I always tried to like do things on my own.
Yeah.
But what I didn't stay away from was like learning from other people. you know, I learned from other people, but I didn't really work well with other people.
Oh, got you.
Yeah.
And now I know through a conversation we've had, one of the schools that we've worked on that Angel actually was on was March, which we know the type of school it is, continuation school.
One of the best schools out there.
Oh, it's fire. We love March. Shout out to
a lot
March.
of experiences in March.
Bring us back, March. But that was a dope school. But obviously, kids that are there are not your high performing. They're not the ones that are learning every day.
Yeah.
Like, what landed you there? Like, you know, because I hear you in like, I've always been a problem solver, a growth thing, and then you like land at a continuation school. What happened in that part of your life that got
it's a
you
bad
there?
thing. You just needed extra support.
Exactly. That's what I'm
extra
saying.
support.
Like,
Oh, I was a terrible student, bro. Yeah, man. So like, I mean, I honestly can't fully pinpoint what it was. You know, I did go to private school for probably for like most of elementary school.
Okay.
I think it goes back to my childhood, honestly, if I can go back a little bit.
Yeah.
I come from 3 generations of fatherlessness. My grandfather don't know who his dad was. We know his stepdad. My dad was left by my grandfather. And so I had an interesting childhood growing up because my dad also he was like kind of in the house, but I was raised by my grandmother who had just gone through a divorce maybe a few years back. So I grew up in a household with her and my her kids, and she was living with her brother.
Okay.
Like she was like she just went to go living with them,
Yeah.
right? So I had this like interesting childhood where there was just a lot of different stuff going on, a lot of trauma, a lot of moving around.
Yeah.
Every school year I'd move around to a different school. And so I never really knew where I fit in, right? So all elementary school, I did great in school. As soon as I went to a new middle school, I just didn't, I don't know what it was. Like I didn't want to do work. I couldn't focus.
Wow.
I think a mix of it too was I always felt like I was too good for it. Like I had an ego.
Yeah.
But I lacked discipline. That was the number one thing. If I could say if there's anything, I just lacked discipline. I didn't know, like living with my grandmother who was going through a lot of trauma as well. She didn't know how to like, hey, you got to do this.
Yeah.
And you know, for her, I think I was more her kid where she wanted me to be successful so much that she didn't necessarily want to lose me. If I'm being real, she wanted to almost kind of have me like be the replacement for all of her other kids that just weren't doing well, you know? Because I'm living in the household with my aunt, like my 2 uncles and an aunt.
Yeah.
One of my uncles was homeless for 18. He was on the streets doing drugs, stole everything from the house, so he wasn't living there. And then I had my aunt and my uncle, as well as my dad, in and out because he was in a gang. And so living in that household, I think she was just kind of like, nah, like you're the golden child. I need you to succeed.
Wow.
But she didn't necessarily know how to like discipline me without wanting me to like she didn't want to push me away.
Got you.
So going into high school, I was mad, just like undisciplined.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, there's like stats out there that we talk about like not liking school and like that type of thing. There's stats out there that say this is horrible because we work in schools. So we believe in the educational process. Say it that way. But stats say the longer you're in school, the less likely you are to become a millionaire or a billionaire.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah.
And so it's ironic that how many people who have a growth mindset, who have that like, I want to learn, I want to gain, I want to, get better.
Yeah.
Also don't do well in school. Like literally struggle in the context of an educational system. And sometimes it's in the context of like high school, middle school. A lot of times you'll see it in college too. They'll show up where they'll just the same for me. I'm gonna drop out.
Yeah.
So just really interesting, like hearing the success you've had and also understanding the struggle of like the educational process. Because I think kids we serve often, like we would encourage them to stay in school. But man, just because you struggle in school does not mean you cannot be successful in life. And so if there was a kid out here that was listening, and I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but like, man, what would you tell like the younger version of you in school, seeing where you are now, what all you've been able to do so far? What would you tell that person?
Oh gosh, you want me to? What do I tell the kid that's in school right now?
Yeah,
that's struggling with the same thing I was struggling with. Oh shoot, man. You are no one else, and no one is you. Like really embrace just who you are as a person, because God created you to just be you. And the moment that you try and start being everybody else, that creates so much pressure and so much like insecurity, and just it makes you not want to it makes you want to try and live everybody else's life, and that's way too hard to do. It's too much stress in that.
Yeah,
That's good.
Going back to our previous conversation off the pod, so you did mention to me that you're a Puerto Rican, you're a fellow Puerto Rican.
Hey.
But the question I asked you was like, how did you get into like the Hawaiian restaurant game, and then you proceeded to tell me the ethnicity of you and your guys. So like, how did that all come about? Like, why this type of food? Like,
yeah,
it's a great question.
Good question, yeah. So one of my partners, we grew up in the South Bay, so Carson, Long Beach area, Bellflower, like we all grew up eating like Hawaiian plate lunches, you know, L&L. Ono's wasn't really around back then, but like L&L Hawaiian barbecue, like we knew the food, right? And so one of my partners went to culinary school later on, and he had his project was to do an Hawaiian food concept. So that was like his final culinary project. So when we got together with this idea of, hey, there's an opportunity, my partner Mike knew the broker that was building the first food hall we opened up in OC. And so he was like, hey, we can do something. And it was like, what are we going to come up with? And we were sitting at a table just like this at a bar. And we were like, we could do Hawaiian food. And we literally came up with the menu, just scratched it out and everything, drew up the logo at the table.
Crazy. I love stories like this, man. This gets me excited. Because you don't... Sorry, I want you to keep that thought. Most stuff that people are fully living out didn't come about in a strategic planning session.
Facts. Or
in a boardroom meeting, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it's that like, yo, we're kicking it at the bar and this random idea comes up, and now we start to like, so just the beauty of like, man, the really starting from nothing and the organicness of like, oh, this actually could really go somewhere. Sorry, that excited me just as you were saying that.
That's exactly what it is. And to speak to that too, I think like we have such a weird idea of how business looks because there's a lot of people that aren't really practitioners. And then it's like they're kind of just reverse engineering what you are supposed to do. And that creates a lot of stress too, because it's man, you don't need no 10-page business plan or nothing like that. Like, just go off the spirit, man. Something will come.
Wow,
you know?
That's fire.
Yeah.
All right, go back into, you were saying you were at the bar.
We drew up the logo on a piece, on a napkin, I want to say.
That's the logo?
Actually, no, it was more like I think we did the pineapple with the glasses, and then the full logo was like a surfboard as well. Why we were literally just like, hey, if we're gonna do Hawaiian, we gotta make it look Hawaiian, right? Like we even we went online and we just looked up like slang terms, like, you know, we found Shootz and we're like, oh, that sounds dope. Like let's
that's a
rock
slang
with that.
term.
Yeah, it's like,
what does it mean?
It kind of means like, it's like, yo, y'all want to go, like let's say we want to go out to a party or whatever, like, hey, let's go hit the bar or whatever, right? You say, all right, bet. It's like saying, all right, Shootz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, let's get it. Let's go do it.
Yeah.
Like, so,
that's fire.
Which is kind of like fits with what we did. It was just like, oh, let's get it. Let's go. Like, let's do this.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So after that conversation happens, what transpires next? Like what gets because you know even like scientifically, when you have a good idea, your brain like sends the like signal through your body as if that good idea has already happened. Right. So like I might have a good idea. I need to go work out today. But I haven't been in the gym yet. But the idea alone will make my body feel like I just worked out. Right. You know what I mean? So how do you actually put...
I have a lot of those ideas.
How do you actually put like feet to the ground, like plan to the paper, and it's not just another dreaming session with a bunch of friends?
Well, we put ourselves... I always say, like, if you really want to move forward, like, put your back against the wall. You know? I think that's what helped me a lot, too, with the dynamic of growing up in my childhood or in school, was that like I always didn't really have stability. So when you're in that type of situation, you got to figure out how to get to stability. So we ended up, this food hall's opening up. We don't know what the food hall looks. It's not even, when we first found out about it, it was an abandoned building that they were going to turn into a food hall.
Is one of those spots that got all the restaurants around it.
Exactly. Yeah. All the restaurants in it. So we're hearing about it. They're building it. And we end up signing a lease to go into that food hall. Like, we haven't even finished the concept. Like, we created everything for the lease, basically, like,
wow,
so that we could sign it.
Wait, did you have an LLC already and things like
We went
that?
and filed the LLC. We filed the LLC for the purposes of signing the lease.
That is crazy.
Like, it wasn't this whole. It really was like quick, man.
Wow.
Like, I'm telling you, I think it was. We met in February. This is 2019. Yeah, 2019. We met in February. We do like a tasting and everything for like our menu. Menu's not even the same menu we have now. We created a little pitch deck. It was ugly. Everything was ugly. And we do the tasting with the broker, show her the food and whatnot. And she's like, okay, cool. I like it. I think you guys will be a good fit. We did have a relationship too, so that helped as well.
Sure.
Relationships are important. So then after that, we signed the lease like in April. Filed the LLC in March, signed the lease in April, and then we had to pay a deposit like 2 months later after that.
Wow.
We opened for $24 grand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's wild. Cash flow in the beginning, like most people think, man, if I'm gonna start a business, I gotta have all this money ready to go and like just stacked and ready to like just dump it all in.
Yeah.
This doesn't sound like that though. This sounds like, don't get me wrong, y'all probably had money in a pot, right? That was working for y'all, with y'all. But what did that look like for you guys? And how do you, how do you step out? And where's the cash flow at? Where's it coming from? Things like that.
Yeah. So there was a lot of blessings in between it, because when we first signed the lease, we knew we had to put up $24 grand to do it, but we didn't have to pay it for like a few months until it was like, hey, it's time to put up the money, right? So we initially went straight to, we all put up $6 grand each. So all four of us, $6 grand each. Some of us were borrowing money from family, brothers, sister, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then we went straight to just doing, like, we did a house party. That was the first thing we did. Like, we literally just invited friends and family, and we said, come through. We're going to showcase our menu and all that. But we had about a year and a half for it to be built. We were thinking it was going to be built that year, the end of 2019. Yeah. Then it got delayed, because that's how all projects in the restaurant business work, or anything construction. And then COVID hit. So that even created even more delays. But prior to that, all we really did was we just did events. And we made no money at every event we did. Like, it was literally just break even or losing a little bit of dollars here and there. Just building a buzz, though. That was the whole goal, just build an audience. And so 2020 comes. I'll never forget it. It was January. The end of January, like, it was my birthday weekend, and it was also the same week Kobe died.
Oh yeah. Wow.
So the very same day Kobe died, we had our best like night market. We made $8 grand.
Oh wow.
So like we launched the chicken sandwich. That was what it was. So we did it downtown Riverside. We killed it, and then we were like, yo, we're gonna do more of these night markets. We're gonna eat, and then bam, Disneyland closed. All the stuff went down from COVID, and so we had to try and figure out what we were gonna do. So we did this thing called quarantine packs. And we basically just posted on social media saying, hey, text us, call us, whatever, place a pickup order. And on the weekends, we would just have people pick up those orders. That's how we made money to be able to open the location.
Wow.
So we opened September of 2020.
Okay.
We had a maxed out credit card and like barely enough money, if we even had enough money to cover our first payroll. And like the moment we opened the doors, we were sold out every single day.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's sick.
Bro, this excites me so much. I love just hearing God stories like this of like, man, we didn't have nothing, but we had faith, and we stepped out and we did it, and then like look what happened here.
Yeah.
And so
you spoke about your friend who was the chef, and he had the project with the Hawaiian food. Talk about your part in Shootz. Like, where do you come in? Because I know you come in from you said the e-commerce background, right? Like, so what is like, oh, Harold, we need, what's the, I guess, your tool or your gift to Shootz?
Yeah. So initially it was I came in more on the business and marketing side. Like, let me help with just, I was doing basic stuff at first, filing paperwork, filing LLCs, like things like that, right? And then I wasn't originally going to be involved like that. It was more just like, hey, this is a side project for me. you know, here's where I can support. And then after we first opened up, you know, I do things like run ads and stuff like that to kind of help us out. But when we first opened up, I saw how successful this thing could be. And my partners are really good in terms of like cooking and operations and things like that. But they didn't really couldn't see like where the business could go. So really it's vision. Like, you know, one thing for me, like growing up, kind of telling you about that multifaceted childhood, you know, having an uncle and an aunt and a dad who's in and out of the house. Yeah. And my grandmother was a radiologist tech. My uncle, her brother that we live with, was a doctor. So I always had like this ability to sort of synthesize things, like be able to put a lot of different things together. And so that really gave me a vision for, this is how this thing could work. You know, I worked in like 10 different industries prior to this. So I understood how customer service works and how, you know, hospitality comes together, how accounting works. I learned accounting from other business. I learned how technology works. So COVID was the thing that like was, oh shoot, I need to be in this industry, because everything that was from the e-commerce industry was coming into the restaurant industry. Everyone went online. Everyone started to send out emails and text messages and things like that.
And you had already just been doing that.
And I was like, yeah, I already know all this stuff works.
That's fine.
Like, and it was more of just the technology in the restaurant industry needed to catch up.
Yeah.
I already knew what we needed to do. It was just now plugging in all the pieces.
Yeah.
So
that's solid.
Yeah. Tell us about, you know, Shootz is its thing. Tell us about your personal and or Shootz mission. Like, what do you stand for? What are you about? Where are you headed? Like, tell us the driving force behind this, because what I've heard in our conversations is, yes, it is a Hawaiian food restaurant, but that's not all that it is. There's like so much more, and some of that comes from, I think, just who you are naturally, and then probably who your team is also. What's the real mission here? What are you guys really trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so we want people to experience defying the odds in their life. That's our ultimate intention in the business. And it really did come, it didn't start with that. Like, it really was something where we had to discover it.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, oh shoot, well, what's going to really differentiate us from every other place that has good food, right? So we have our values. Our values are dope, DOPE. So dreamer, everyone has to have a dream if you're going to work on our team. Ownership, people, and excellence, right? So what we're going back to what I was saying earlier, right?
I might take that.
We just gotta take that. Yeah, so that's we built. That's the architecture of our business. Everything is built around those ideas. You know, dope experiences, right? But going back to what we were saying earlier, I don't remember if we were even on the mic yet, but you know, 60% of adults.
I was getting ready to
go 60% of adults. Or 60% of adults have worked in the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
So, and one thing I thought about was, okay, well, I have a lot of friends, and out of the, usually 6 out of 10 of them aren't great leaders. They're not, you know, they don't lead themselves well.
Shout out to my 6 friends.
And I would say even more than that, really, you know, it's like, usually you're only going to have, and that's why people like us end up sitting in rooms together like this, because we're trying to find other people that are like-minded and whatnot. Solid. But coming in the restaurant industry, the majority of the people that come to work there, it's really like they don't get taught what they need to get taught. Wow. So the restaurant industry has done a huge disservice, I think, to individuals, to students, especially students that are usually lost and whatnot. And there's this huge culture that I'm seeing to where we bash them and we talk about them as if, like, you know, Gen Z, they're horrible kids. You don't want to hire them and things like that. But it's like, man, if you raise the bar for them, they'll step up to it, you know. So
fire.
You're talking just like our language now, like in the context of the work we do, like, man, holding that standard for young people.
Yeah.
And then believing that they are capable beings, right? Like, you can grow, you can learn, you can serve. You know, and so, but the concept that a restaurant industry can be the developmental place for people is like that's beautiful. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to just be my first job.
It should be.
Yeah. But like, I get to grow as a leader and a person and come out of here differently. I just think,
Solid.
yeah, that's fire. That's fire.
So what do you do? What's it like when you encounter, especially with the 60% stat, when you encounter now young high school kids who do work for Shootz? Like how does the training happen? How does the leadership? Is it one-on-one? We had a gentleman here yesterday who kind of spoke about how he likes to do the one-on-ones with the young people and kind of just like mentor them. Is it the same process for you guys? How does that work?
Yeah, a lot of so we definitely do a lot of coaching calls or coaching conversations. You know, I think a lot of times in the restaurant industry, it's like, oh, they're messing up, and it's you tolerate it, you know.
Yeah.
But I'd say it actually starts from the jump of like hiring in general, right? Because I think where we do a disservice is that we hire kids that aren't ready, right? And as opposed to don't hire them, but have a conversation with them of this is why you weren't hired. You know, you can use the hiring process, the interviewing process as an opportunity to actually help people see where they need to grow, help people see where they need to change.
You literally say this is why you weren't hired?
We won't tell them why they weren't hired, but we'll tell them what they need to work on.
Oh,
that's great.
That's still dope, though.
Yeah. And during the interviewing process, we're telling them this is what we do here. You know, I'm asking them questions like that makes them start thinking. You know, what do you think about profit? What do you think about, you know, how to generate sales? You know, how would you do it? So it's like it gets them thinking as opposed to just, you know, most interviews in the restaurant industry are just, okay, this is your resume, blah, blah. You go to school here. Okay, that's cool. Like, can you show up on these days? Yeah. Okay, great. You hire them, right?
Wow.
So yeah, it starts really with the interviewing process in general, because we realize that in our industry, I can't necessarily hire everyone, even though they may not be qualified. They might not be the highest caliber person.
Sure.
But if we don't, we need to at least inform them of why, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of inside of the business, yeah, when we get them in, having really good orientation, making it an awesome experience for them, because no one wants to work somewhere where it's not a great place to work.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, coaching conversations are huge. Like anytime someone either messes up or sometimes if they're doing something great, a conversation needs to be had.
Yeah. A org like ours works with, you know, 1,000 students a year.
Yeah.
Like deeply, right? Like we're in a 10-week journey with them. We have a lot of leaders that do listen to us, youth workers, youth pastors, and then some nonprofit folks, like people that are working with students. What do you wish somebody like us would do to prepare the students to have an opportunity at a place like this? Like, what could we do on our end to like really get in and help them come correct? And let me be clear. I'm not talking like resume building. Like, you know what I mean? Facts. Not that. But on a like, what could we teach? What could we talk about? What could we do to instill in them what it'll take to really like be successful at Shootz?
Teach them how to find direction in their life. Like, what is the thing that you're going for?
Okay.
You know, it doesn't have to be your ultimate dream overall, but it's just like you have some type of direction. Because at the end of the day, for us at Shootz, the reason why we want people to have a dream is because when you come here, we want to see where we fit. We don't want it to just be like, it's funny, one of my mentors always said, he said, when you hire people, he said, they're either in it for bar money or bill money, right? It's like, if they're in it for bar money, then like that person's the one that don't show up for work. If they're in it for bill money, or they're in it because they know what it is that they're doing, they see where this thing fits. And then also it's like, what can they learn from it? You know, might not necessarily be about the money. It's just what is the thing that you're calling, at least what it is, you know, your calling or the vision. So really trying to help them identify what the vision is in their life. And then personal responsibility, like understanding that you have control over your life. Like no one else is here to try and help you, or no one else is there for you to depend on. You really got to figure out how you're gonna make this happen. Because once you get to a certain age, it's on you, and really it's on you now.
Yeah,
facts. You know? It's not anybody else's responsibility. But yeah, personal responsibility and vision.
Wow.
Yeah. That's dope. Speaking of dreams, so you have a dream of seeing 1,000 people move in a, I guess, successful space in their life. Can you speak a bit about that? Like, what made you think of 1,000 people? What made you want to lean into that, or coach, or any of that?
Man, that's just what God put on my heart. I'm sure the number will change.
Yeah.
Because even 1,000, it's like, so I really shifted my mindset when we first started the restaurant, and I got into the position of like really spearheading the company. I had to think like, what's my vision for this thing? Where do we want to take it? And originally, God had put on my heart. I was speaking to one of my mentors, and he was like, well, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to exit the company? And I was like, man, I think that'd be cool. Like, I don't know, maybe exit for $100 million or something. And he was like, that's solid. And the very next day, one of my other mentors sent me a book. He sent me 2 books. He sent me a private equity book, and he sent me another book called The $100 Million Exit next morning. And I'm like, yo, that's crazy. And at first, that was like my ideal. And then as I kind of, we went through the years of running this business, and we have ups and downs in the restaurant industry,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
And we were at a point where it was just, I wasn't sure what I was in it for anymore. And I realized that 100 million really isn't anything in this industry. Chick-fil-A is $1 billion company. Raising Cane's is $1 billion company. So I realized what opportunity we have, but then it shifted to how many lives can we change?
Wow.
So instead of it being a location count of like, let's open up 100 locations, well, we have about 15, 20 employees in every location. It's like, well, how can I change 1,500 people's lives? How can I change 2,000 people's lives? So I say it's more of just, like God just put it on my heart to really help grow people.
Yeah.
And however that happens, like I'll let him worry about that, but I'm just going to move forward and creating the architecture that will allow it.
Yeah.
When I hear that, I hear the difference between transactional and transformational. Right? Like transaction is all about numbers and impact and like exchanging time, money, hours, like, 15 employees, one location. Like that's very transactional. It's very like, I'm only looking at this. Transformational is when the focus becomes the people.
Yeah.
Right? Like now how do I grow this in such a way not to have more locations, but to include more people in the journey,
right?
Which will then, the byproduct of that's going to be more locations, more opportunities, things like that. So it really sounds like what you guys have ventured into is a transformational model of the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
And I don't mean transformational in the sense of like which you probably might at some level transform the restaurant industry, but transformational meaning the people are the focus.
Can I share something to that?
Yeah.
So there's it's a Hebrew word, right? Yad, which is hand, and then yad is hand in hand, which is like friend, like a beloved friend, right? So it's a handshake. I shared this with my team because in merchant processing, it's actually a technology term, right? Like if you send an email or whatever, right? The 2 servers, what they do is they have a handshake. And in merchant processing, if you swipe your card, what happens is a handshake happens. So whenever you swipe your card to pay for something in the back end, it's what's called a handshake. And so one thing I share with the team is like understanding that when someone's swiping their card, it's not a transaction.
Wow.
They're literally exchanging, like you're almost exchanging, like it's setting a covenant with each other. And so like we have
Clip it.
we have a much bigger responsibility with how we treat our guests, with how we treat each other. It's not just about exchanging money. We're really exchanging friendship with each other.
Wow. Growth trajectory, you guys have been around since 2019. We're going into 2025. How many locations, how many employees? Like, just tell us the journey of how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, so started in September 2020. We opened the first one. 600 square foot location. We did 1.9 million in sales. We had 20 employees. Out of that, we're at like 24 locations, 24 employees in that one location now. We opened the second and the third one in 2022. It's Long Beach in Ontario.
Sheesh.
So we were at about 58 employees. And then now we just opened up number 4 in San Juan Capistrano. We're at about 62 employees now. We're opening number 5 next year in like January, February in Whittier. So we're probably expecting to be around 75 employees or so around that time. And then from there, I was telling Angel earlier, like I don't really want to call it a pause or like we're stopping, but we're really just going to put heavy focus on the internal marketing, like the stuff we're talking about right now.
Sir.
You know, making sure the team is that almost indoctrinated with what we're talking about. And then from there, really the goal is to open 100 locations in 5 years.
Wow.
So owner operated, no
years.
franchise. Yeah.
Wow.
As the growth journey of that is, even from our experience, we scaled so fast 1 year, 2 schools to 23 schools. That's like, whoa, what are we doing here? Right? Like 5 restaurants in 5 years. Like, that's pretty absurd. Like, and I'm not in the restaurant industry, but it sounds absurd to me.
Yeah.
But then I love hey, let's pause. Let's tighten things up. Let's indoctrinate the people with what we're really about, where we're going. Because then on the other side of that, it feels like now that's the next level of unlocking potential and opportunities and growth. And so, real quick, we're almost out of time here. What does it mean to you to be cut from a different cloth?
Ooh, what does it mean to me?
Mm-hmm.
I think going back to what we were saying about just being really just who you are. At the end of the day, all of us are cut from a different cloth, you know. But I think it's really the embracing of it that makes us who we are, makes us different, makes it to where someone looks at you like, oh man, like that guy's really doing it. It's like, nah, I'm not doing it. I'm just doing me, you know? So yeah, I would say just going boldly with whatever it is that God's put on your heart.
I love it.
'Cause it's different. And if you find yourself feeling like it's the same as everybody else's, then you just haven't found it yet.
Haven't found it yet. Shots fire. Well, bro, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for the impact you and Shootz are making. Thanks for the partnership here at Rescue Generation. We're grateful, man, that we got to connect and hear from you today. And I'm sure this will be one of many that we get to just keep linking arms with. And so,
Hope so.
Where can people get connected with you and Shootz and
So you can find Shootz at Instagram at Shootz.official. Shootz with a Z.
Yeah.
SHOOTZ.official. You can find me on Instagram at Harold I. Walters. And pretty much it.
it's great. Hey, for all of you leaders, dreamers, change makers out there, man, keep making the impact God's called you to make. We believe in you like crazy. Like, subscribe, follow, do all the things. We'll see you next time.